This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to the briefing. We are looking at a tragic mass shooting in Louisiana and several major legal updates from across the nation. Let's get into the details of today's top stories.
A father kills 8 people in a Louisiana mass shooting.
A Fitbit exposes a husband's lies about his wife's murder.
A shooting survivor is later found buried in a backyard.
A Florida teacher is charged with abusing a student with autism.
A man pleads guilty to killing a girl over Facebook.
A Georgia man gets life for killing his wife's ex.
A Kentucky man is charged for threatening President Trump's life.
A Colorado man gets 96 years for a bar shooting.
Starting in Louisiana, the city of Shreveport is reeling after a horrific mass shooting that claimed the lives of 8 children. Police report that Shamar Elkins killed 7 of his own children and 1 other child early Sunday morning. The victims were incredibly young, ranging in age from just 1-year-old to approximately 14. The violence didn't stop there, as 10 people were struck by gunfire in total across multiple locations. 2 adult women and a teenager were also injured, though their injuries are not considered life-threatening. This single act of domestic violence has more than doubled the city's homicide rate for the year, leaving the community and local officials in a state of absolute shock and mourning.
The details of the rampage are chilling. Investigators say Elkins first shot a woman on the street before moving to a nearby residence where the 8 children were killed. One victim managed to escape to a neighbor's house to call for help. After the shootings, Elkins carjacked a vehicle at gunpoint, leading police on a high-speed chase that ended when officers opened fire and killed him. Shreveport Police Chief Wayne Smith expressed the collective disbelief of the department, stating he couldn't imagine how such an event could occur. Because the suspect was killed by police, the Louisiana State Police are now investigating the circumstances of his death while the community begins the long process of grieving this unimaginable loss.
Now to Connecticut. In a case that sounds like a Hollywood thriller, Rick DeBate's elaborate story about a home invasion has been dismantled by technology. Back in 2015, Rick claimed a large intruder in camouflage, who he said sounded like Vin Diesel, broke into his Ellington home. He told police the man tortured him with a blowtorch and a box cutter before killing his wife, Connie. When troopers arrived, they found Rick partially zip-tied to a chair, and Connie dead in the basement from gunshot wounds. For a while, the neighborhood was on edge, fearing a violent killer was on the loose. However, investigators soon began to find holes in Rick's narrative that didn't align with the physical evidence found at the scene.
The breakthrough came from Connie's Fitbit. While Rick claimed the attack happened shortly after they arrived home, the data from Connie's wearable device showed she was walking around for nearly an hour after Rick said she was killed. This digital footprint directly contradicted his timeline. Further investigation revealed that Rick was involved in an extramarital affair, and his mistress was pregnant, providing a potential motive for the crime. Despite his claims of a match made in heaven, the evidence painted a picture of a man desperate to escape his life through violence. The case, recently featured on Oxygen's A Plan to Kill, serves as a stark reminder of how modern technology can provide a voice for victims who can no longer speak for themselves.
Next, in New Jersey, the tragic story of Tyrita Julius is a harrowing tale of obsession and betrayal. In November 2015, Tyrita and her teenage daughter were ambushed in their car outside their home in Linden, New Jersey. A gunman fired 8 shots into Tyrita's chest and torso, while her daughter was also injured. Miraculously, both survived the initial attack. During her recovery, Tyrita's ex-girlfriend, Jennifer Sweeney, remained by her side, acting as a devoted friend. Tyrita viewed the relationship as strictly platonic, but investigators later learned that Sweeney was telling others they were engaged. This discrepancy in their relationship status became a focal point for detectives as they looked for a motive behind the shooting, even though Tyrita herself initially defended Sweeney from any suspicion.
The situation took a dark turn months later when Tyrita went missing after a lunch date with Sweeney. Her family's worst fears were realized when her body was discovered buried in a backyard, having been strangled to death. The investigation eventually linked Sweeney to the original shooter, Andre Gilliard. It was revealed that Sweeney had hired Gilliard to carry out the first attempt on Tyrita's life, and then finished the job herself when the first attempt failed. This case, highlighted on Oxygen's Snapped, showcases the terrifying lengths a rejected partner might go to when they cannot control their target. Sweeney and Gilliard were eventually brought to justice, but the community remains haunted by the calculated nature of the crimes against a woman who had already survived so much.
Moving to Florida. A disturbing incident at Peace Christian Academy in Hialeah has led to child abuse charges against a teacher. Nicole Marie Rodriguez is accused of forcefully slamming an 8-year-old student with autism to the floor. Surveillance footage, which was obtained via subpoena, reportedly shows the boy sitting on a beanbag and not displaying any aggressive behavior. Despite this, Rodriguez allegedly pulled his hands behind his back and struggled with him until his head and upper body hit the floor. The boy's mother discovered the injuries, including a puncture wound and finger-shaped bruises, while giving him a bath. The physical evidence on the child's body provided the initial red flag that something had gone terribly wrong during the school day, leading to the subsequent police investigation.
What makes this case particularly controversial is the school's internal response. An internal report claimed that Rodriguez was using supportive de-escalation procedures to manage the boy's behavior. Her attorney echoed this defense during a bond hearing, suggesting the child was acting out and required restraint. However, police maintained that the video evidence shows no provocation from the student. The contrast between the school's description of de-escalation and the violent actions captured on camera has sparked outrage. Rodriguez has since posted a $5,000 bond and is awaiting her next court date. This case highlights the ongoing concerns regarding the safety and proper treatment of students with special needs in educational environments, especially when physical restraint is used as a primary tool for behavioral management.
Back to New Jersey. In a heartbreaking resolution to a senseless crime, Isaiah Roberts has pleaded guilty to aggravated manslaughter for the 2022 death of 9-year-old Sequoya Bacon-Jones. The young girl was playing outside her apartment in Trenton when she was caught in the crossfire of a shooting. Roberts admitted in court that the violence stemmed from a trivial Facebook feud involving his mother and sister. He had been called to the scene to deal with a family nemesis and opened fire in a crowded courtyard. Sequoya was hit while trying to run for cover with her brother. Her mother, Sasha Bacon-Jones, described the devastating moment she found her daughter covered in blood, reaching out for her. The tragedy underscores the lethal consequences of minor online disputes, escalating into real-world violence.
During the court proceedings, Roberts' attorney argued that his client did not intend to harm the young girl, but acknowledged a reckless disregard for human life. The shooting has left a permanent void in the lives of Sequoya's family, who are now left with only memories. Sasha Bacon-Jones has been vocal about the stupidity of the beef that led to her daughter's death, emphasizing that no social media argument is worth a human life. Roberts, who was 19 at the time of the shooting, now faces a significant prison sentence. This case serves as a grim reminder of how innocent bystanders, particularly children, often pay the highest price for the impulsive and violent actions of others in their communities, leaving families to pick up the pieces of shattered lives.
Shifting to Georgia, a Georgia man, Nicholas Michael Mims, has been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Eduardo Figueroa. The shooting occurred during what was supposed to be Figueroa's first court-approved visitation with his child. While Figueroa arrived at the meeting with a stuffed animal, diapers, and snacks, Mims showed up wearing body armor and carrying a loaded gun. Prosecutors highlighted this stark contrast, noting that Figueroa came with love and gifts, while Mims came prepared for a confrontation. When Figueroa realized the child wasn't there and tried to leave, Mims called him back and shot him 4 times in the side, back, and arm. The cold-blooded nature of the attack, occurring at a time meant for family reunification, has deeply impacted the local community and the victim's family.
Mims attempted to claim self-defense, alleging that Figueroa was dangerous and had threatened him. However, investigators found that Figueroa was unarmed and posed no threat. The jury rejected the self-defense claim, convicting Mims of felony murder and aggravated assault. District Attorney Susan Treadaway spoke about the unimaginable heartbreak the family has endured, noting that a day meant for smiles and laughter was turned into a tragedy. The life sentence ensures that Mims is held accountable for taking a father away from his son before they even had a chance to meet. This case illustrates the extreme dangers that can arise in domestic disputes and the importance of ensuring that court-ordered visitations are conducted in safe, neutral environments to prevent such senseless acts of violence.
Now to Kentucky. Federal prosecutors have charged a Kentucky man, Cadrioan Santiago, for making graphic and violent threats against President Donald Trump and law enforcement. Santiago allegedly used Instagram to post a series of politically motivated threats, including a disturbing plan to mutilate the president's face and feed it to stray dogs. Beyond the threats against the president, he also encouraged violence against ICE agents and any law enforcement officer who might interact with him. The FBI began investigating in early April after receiving tips about his online activity. They discovered that Santiago was not just making verbal threats, he was also compiling an arsenal of weapons and tactical gear. This combination of violent rhetoric and the acquisition of firearms raised immediate alarms for federal authorities regarding the potential for a domestic terror incident.
The criminal complaint details Santiago's posts, where he claimed to be filled with political violence and warned that no one would be spared. He even posted images of what appeared to be an assault rifle on his lap, boasting about having unregistered firearms. Santiago was eventually arrested following a traffic stop by the Garrard County Sheriff's Office. The Department of Justice is taking these threats very seriously, emphasizing that interstate communications involving threats of violence are a federal crime. This case highlights the ongoing challenge law enforcement faces in monitoring social media for credible threats and the speed at which online radicalization can lead to the stockpiling of weapons. Santiago now faces significant federal charges as the investigation into his motives and potential plans continues to unfold in court.
Finally, in Colorado, a Colorado judge has sentenced Jimmy Cazares to 96 years in prison for a violent rampage at a local bar. The incident occurred in November 2024 after Cazares was kicked out of Weiler's Pub and Brew for fighting. He returned 40 minutes later and fired 59 shots into the establishment from the outside. A bartender was struck in the neck, and another woman was nearly hit as bullets flew through the building. During the sentencing, the bartender shared the lasting impact of the trauma, stating she believes she died for a brief moment that night. The sheer volume of gunfire directed at a community gathering spot shocked the city of Greeley, and prosecutors argued that it was only by the grace of God that no one was killed.
Cazares was convicted of multiple charges, including attempted murder and possession of a weapon by a previous offender. Deputy District Attorney Lacey Wells emphasized that the damage from such a crime doesn't stop when the bullets do, as the victims will carry the emotional and physical scars for the rest of their lives. The judge's decision to impose a near-century sentence reflects the severity of the attack and the defendant's total lack of respect for human life. This case serves as a stern warning about the consequences of retaliatory violence. While the physical wounds may heal, the sense of safety in the community has been deeply shaken. The lengthy prison term ensures that Cazares will no longer be a threat to the public after his reckless and nearly lethal actions.
That wraps up our briefing for today. Thank you for joining us for these important updates.
Be sure to follow us for your next daily update on the stories that matter most. We will see you back here tomorrow.